holy crap, they have made the new Tahm Kench. It is released. He is really, really strong and a lot more fun to play with, a lot lower of a cooldown, and how they changed the R into the W and the W into the R. I think everything is just working for Tahm Kench. I would not be surprised to see his win ratio go up. He is in a really, really cool spot, and I heavily encourage you guys to check him out. I'm going to put timestamps at every single point of this video. They're going to be at the top of the page as well. If you have any questions for me, pin comments down below is going to have a link to my Discord. If you are at all a Tahm Kench player, if you play him quite a bit yourself, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts down below with your own tips. I'm a little bit limited to this format. Only I do not want to have these videos run too long. So with all that out of the way, let's get right into the video.
No luck in your promo games? Not even one pentakill? Did your teammate rage quit? Feed the enemy team? Just jump over to turbosmurfs.gg and do like the pros, buy a fresh level 30 account. We offer high-quality accounts and service that reflects in our 5 out of 5 star rating on Trustpilot. Not only that, but we also offer lifetime warranty on all our accounts and a daily loot box where you can win a free account. Link in the description.
All right, getting into tip number one. The first thing that I wanted to cover really quick isn't really a tip, but his AP scalings are actually kind of ridiculous. If you look at his Q, it's a 70% on a very, very low cooldown and also has a heal. His W is 100% AP scaling, which is absolutely insane for a champion like this, as well as a percentage HP scaling coming out of his ultimate, as well as if you use it in a defensive manner for your allies, you can give them a huge shield with 100% AP scaling. So I think there is some merit to running an AP Tahm Kench. It's not going to be as meta as the tankier supportive build, but with all that out of the way, let's go into some more basic things that everyone can utilize when they're playing Tahm Kench. Now, very important thing to understand is you want to be landing your abyssal dive on targets as much as possible, obviously. So you want to be looking for frames when the enemy champion is CSing, when the enemy champion is slowed, or when the enemy champion is CC to guarantee that you are going to hit them with this really, really strong ability. So you can do that yourself by throwing out your tongue lash into a W. You can do this in the exact same motion. You can input the W dive as your cast animation is going off in your Q, and it really allows you to just get that really nice abyssal dive on the enemy target. In general, they will be moving back after getting hit by the Q, and you just put the W a little bit behind them, and that is going to give you a very, very high chance of landing the abyssal dive on the enemy targets. Now, the range does differ by the different rank ups, but it should be a very basic combo that you should be able to utilize. And then post 6, obviously a combo can look like this: Q, W, and then you want to be following them with the auto attack and then getting the devour off and getting them even farther away from their tower. So Tahm Kench can be quite a bully. He's a little bit more of a kill lane than what he used to be because of his mobility. You can think of him a little bit more like Leona, how he has a dash, he has a stun, and then he has an ultimate that you really, really need to be careful with. And that will wrap up tip number one for Tahm Kench. All right, and getting into tip number two, and a very, very important skill to get a really good understanding of, is the thick skin, and how you should be looking to utilize it is very similar to things like Warmog and Pyke's passive, where he gets a lot of gray health. I'm going to demonstrate right here. We're going to aggro a couple things. We're going to take a decent amount of damage, and the general rule of thumb when you have a lot of gray health is the fight going to continue? Are you under threat? If you're under a lot of threat and they have a lot of burst, you want to be using your thick skin, and if not, you want to be letting it really tick out. It takes 4 seconds before the thick skin will take effect, so you need to be very, very careful. You do not want to pop a thick skin shield and the enemy team is disengaging on you. This is just going to be a very, very big waste of your ability to heal up quite a bit and really take advantage of maybe some of those lower sustain enemy laners that are looking to trade and really then back off and then poke you a bit more and then back off and then poke you a bit more. Tahm Kench is very, very effective against this playstyle due to his thick skin and his ability to heal off both of his Q and the passive from thick skin. And that will wrap up tip number two. All right, getting into the next tip, we're going to talk a little bit about the Q and R usage, particularly in team fights. Now, if you did not know, the Q, one of the biggest Q changes is that he is going to heal for a missing percentage of his HP when he is throwing out his tongue lash. So what this means is you are going to heal for a very small amount when you are at a high HP threshold and a pretty big amount when you are at a lower HP threshold. So getting this and really baiting enemy champions into a very, very poor position and then sustaining up with a big thick skin shield as well as increased healing from your tongue lash can be a very effective way to become just a absolute menace in team fights. Next thing I want to talk about in team fights is it's very, very important to understand when you are playing Tahm Kench is your R utilization is going to be so insanely important because it is a just huge game changer in what is going to happen in the fights, whether you need to just absolutely take an enemy out of the game or you need to prevent a ally from going down by using your really nice, just pick them up, get them into safety, and then throw them out with a nice big fat shield on them when you are playing Tahm Kench. And it has a very, very high base amount of shielding, 600 at the third level, 300 first, 450 at the second level. So this is just going to be a very, very great way to protect an enemy carry. So what you want to look at is before any of these fights, you need to understand what is going on in the particular fights. Is there an enemy diver that puts your ADC at a huge threat? This is when you want to be using your ult in a defensive manner. But if you're winning front-to-back team fights and your carries are under very little threat, all that you have to worry about is them killing your tanks first and then moving to your backline first. This is when you want to take out the highest damage dealer with your Devour if it's possible, or the highest threat target that is in range and you're able to Devour. And that will wrap up this tip for Tahm Kench. Okay, and getting into tip number 4, we're going to talk about a couple of his very, very good strengths. And with the changes and his new type of playstyle, Tahm Kench becomes a absolute menace roaming and or ganking. If you're playing him out of the jungle, I don't know how his clear speed is, but his ability to gank and come from very unique angles with his W is just going to be a great way for supports to get a lot of pressure around their map, or if it's a top laner coming down to mid or affecting the enemy jungler, you should always be looking for plays with your Abyssal Dive because you bring so much CC. You bring a knockup, you bring a slow, you bring a stun, and you bring a Devour, which is an immense amount of CC, and it is going to be very, very strong and is just going to be able to take out a particular laner out of the game in the early lane phase if you are able to effectively roam on that enemy champion and just get them in a very poor position. The next thing I wanted to talk about is Abyssal Mask is going to be an absolutely insane item on Tahm Kench. Because of the amount of CC he gets, he can proc it in 3 different ways. First of all, he can proc it with his W. As you can see there, the broken shield is going to be procking it. The next thing you are going to be able to proc it with is your Q stun is going to be another way, and then the third way is going to be the ultimate. So procking your Abyssal Mask on these targets and really just singling them out for just an absolutely getting obliterated is going to be a great way to play it out, because you are putting CC on the target, making it so they are unable to dodge your abilities, as well as a increased 15% damage amp on that target, which is absolutely huge, particularly in the later periods of the game. And that will wrap up this tip for Tahm Kench. All right, and getting into the final tip, it is really important to get a good understanding of the runes and what you are looking to do on Tahm Kench and really making it for your particular playstyle. If you're a hyper aggressive and you're not playing him in support, you want to be going things like Grasp, getting a little bit of extra damage on your auto attacks. If you are a Tahm Kench player though, period, just Tahm Kench player, you have to grab Revitalize. It is going to be very, very strong because it goes and double dips with Tahm Kench's kit, giving him both increased healing power and these shielding powers. So he's going to be getting more out of his thick skin, as well out more healing out of his Q, as well as this increases the amount of healing the lower health you are from your Q, as well as Revitalize increases it by 10%, by an extra 5% if you are below 40% health. So getting this rune is going to be an absolutely great way to look to play out Tahm Kench. And then going things like Approach Velocity can be very effective to chase down targets after you've land a slow, and then overall increased movement speed on Tahm Kench. It's really what he was gated by, but now that he has a little bit of mobility coming out of his W, giving him more movement speed is just going to make him all the more scarier. And then with the increased amount of shielding, you can just get into just ridiculous levels of tanky if you're playing Tahm Kench in the top lane. This isn't any augmented size. All this is an elixir of iron with the Frostfire extra extra size, as well as the extra size coming out of Gargoyle Stoneplate, and you are just taking up a massive part of the lane where you're able to absorb so many skill shots. So Tahm Kench is going to be hyper effective against enemy poke teams, particularly in the late game when he is tanky and can take a lot of punishment and keep on ticking and hard engage with his W and his Q spell. So keep this in mind when you're playing Tahm Kench. If you want to talk at all about runes or items, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts down below. If there's a particular champion you guys want to see, make sure to comment that down below. I'll see if I can make a video about that. And with all that done, I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Please remember to like and subscribe. As always, take it easy.